Hey everyone, I'm MSK, aka Master Swag King, coming at you guys today with another video. And if you guys are returning viewers or new viewers, then please consider subscribing to the channel if you have not already. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it and comment down below. Also, make sure you guys hit the notification bell. That way you guys can get notified on whenever I upload a brand new video. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about comic book sales. So I have never did a video on my comic channel talking about comic book sales because the average person does not know how the industry actually works. So long story short, you have, how would I say this? We'll go 1, 2, 3, and we'll go 4 because we're like the fourth people. You have the person that makes the books. Then you have the person that distributes the books. And then you have the person that buys the books. And then you have you, random poor motherfucker. I'll just call you that, you know? So essentially, Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, Boom, IDW, they make the books. Distributors get the books that the retailers order. And the distributors give you, your local comic book stores, their books, right? So you going in there and buying a Spider-Man comic doesn't get Marvel anything. So when people go, why don't Marvel and DC ever want to improve? Well, they're already getting paid up front. Remember, the distributors, they get the stuff from them. So they're paying Marvel and DC up front, right? The people that get really fucked over are the shop owners that essentially get, like, let's say, damaged products, right? Or they get left with products that people can't pay for when, like, you know, the economy's bad and maybe they weren't making as much money. So someone will be like, hey, I can't keep this book on my pullets anymore, but that book's already been paid for. Now you just stuck your shop with, you know, a fucking book that they potentially can't sell because newer comics are way harder to sell than, let's say, back issues. So DC recently launched their Absolute Universe, which you've been reading some of the books, actually. People don't know. Started with the Absolute Power event. Then after that, you had the DC All-In Special #1. Then after that, they released Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman, and Absolute Wonder Woman. So that, in and of itself, has bumped up DC comic book sales. Now, keep in mind, when I say sales, it's not people physically buying the said books. There is a big difference there. So when you see, like, on ICV2, you'll see, like, Absolute Batman #1. Let's say, hypothetically, right? That's not people walking in stores and all, like, buying that shit. Keep in mind what I just said earlier. Books are already paid for, okay? So that's shops ordering from the retailers, okay? That's what's happening, right? So this is just the culmination of the books that are doing well that shops are actually, you know, buying for. So as you can say right there, that middleman system is very, very bad. That you can tell that that is definitely not good. As we just had Diamond, a longtime monopoly distributor, essentially filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So we're going to go over this. So DC essentially kind of like had to do that Absolute Universe thing because before it, they weren't even getting books in the top 10. There was a few months there, their books weren't even like 10. That's not good. That's bad. Now, this right here is what a lot of people don't also understand as well, is this hopefully can last very long. I would say this. Hopefully this can last a good amount of time for DC to have a a sales spike, because if this ever like goes down, that's not a good thing because, well, what are they going to do? They already essentially did Dawn of DC recently, and now they're in All In. Like, what's else past All In? You know, Marvel just constantly keeps rebooting after like 12 issues. They'll reboot back to #1. Iron Man rebooted back to #1 recently. Scarlet Witch, how many reboots she's been through? I can't even tell you.
Yeah. It's
Deadpool, how many? Like what? 5, 6, 7, 8 reboots here. They killed Deadpool off. They replaced him with his daughter. So like, well, why the fuck would I ever even buy that ever again? That's not Deadpool. You know? So what about you, man? Like, when it comes to like the comic book sales kind of arguments?
Well, to me, it's like you said, it's basically what's in demand. So like, if your comic book shop gets like 100 or like 50, Absolute Batmans, and they sell out real quick and there's more people coming in to ask for it, then they know to get more. But the problem is when you're constantly redoing #1s, people think like, oh, I got to get this because it's a #1, and they might be
Speculators.
So, but when you do that and other people like older comic fans are like, well, are they rebooting or are they just starting over again and keeping the same continuity? Because that's big for older comic book fans. They
Yeah.
want the same continuity. They want to exist in the same world. Now with DC, one of their biggest flaws is the constantly rebooting.
Mm-hmm.
Like the big ones, like the New 52, even though I still thought there was some decent stuff in the New 52.
Decent stuff in there, right? Yeah.
And I thought they did well with Rebirth, but then they like drop it, and it's like, why didn't you just keep going? Like,
and they tried to do their, because people don't even understand this, dude. They tried to do this Ultimate Marvel Universe for a while. They did like Earth One, what
Right.
wasn't Future State supposed to be a version of that starting, but
Yes.
whenever it would lose traction as far as like sales, they would just stop it. They would just stop it completely. So this is the first time they fully went in on that Ultimate Marvel Universe they've always kind of wanted to do. Now,
right.
I understand. I think
because all the other ones were not connected. That was the thing. All the other ones they tried to be, but they weren't. At least when we got the All In special, we know that these three, Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, at some point they're gonna conflict with the main universe. They have to.
Yeah.
So it's gonna happen. So that might also be getting people into it to see what happens, because they're not changing the continuity of the main universe. Mm-hmm. They're just starting a new one. So that might drive people to get them. But I think also whenever you don't have like, a surefire way of knowing what is selling comparatively to what is actually being read.
Yeah,
that's
a lot of problems right there too, because as we just highlighted earlier with what I told you about how the industry works, everyone. So if we even get to where you're saying all these people are buying these books, are they buying them and reading them? I'll be honest with you, dude, I don't think they are. Given how we know conversations go on the internet, I know people aren't reading them books.
Oh, yeah, Wikipedia warriors is what I call them.
Right? I think people are literally just buying for the art. That's it.
Some of them probably, some of them buying for a collection.
People are always so surprised at dialogue. Like recently, there was this like Jenny Sparks book that Tom King was writing, and everyone one was so surprised that Jenny Sparks was yelling at Superman about like the C-19 pandemic. And it's like, I'll be honest here, was anybody even reading that book at all? Or you? So I imagine you would be surprised at some horrible dialogue like that. Yeah, no one reading that shit. It's probably the only recognition it ever had outside of like maybe some #1 bump in sales,
Yeah, and they also need to keep creative teams that want to write for that book. That's a big one. Like, they screwed up with a few people, like when they brought Bendis over,
That's what I like that they did with for the All In initiative. They just kind of swapped creative teams. They didn't just start rebooting. And that's the thing is they said they weren't going to reboot stuff with All In, but they're going to end up rebooting Batman and Superman back to #1s. It's like, I thought we weren't doing reboots anymore. They literally said it was the big flagship of this one's like, hey, no reboots. It's a continuation. We're just getting different writing teams. And I've always been a big proponent of that too. Yeah, if a run's not going so good, or the people are kind of tired and it's stale, swap creative teams. You can swap teams. You don't got to restart the entire thing.
Yeah, you can always write yourself out, and leave something open for someone else to come and take over.
Yeah, and like you just said there, it hurts the fans because, like, let's say me and you, we buy the floppies. I love when it gets to be a longer and longer thing because I'm really invested. And then, now you're at issue like 30. I've been buying all 30 issues. #1. So what I just invested into doesn't matter as far as like numbering, because those numbers mean something. I told you this. The reason why the numbers mean something is because that's the investment of time invested into money, reading the character, giving that character your time. So what I really hated that DC did before the Dawn of DC initiative, The Flash was at 800 issues. Do you know how long it takes to get someone to a milestone like that? You know what? Yeah, #1. They just rebooted a character that 800 issues.
And then they were doing that thing. It's #1, but the legacy number is 802. And then it's like, no, dude, just say it's, say what it is. There's a reason why Action Comics 1000, was a big deal. And it had a whole bunch of writers and a whole bunch of artists and a whole bunch of, it's because holy crap, you made it to 1,000.
Yeah, and
that's incredible.
The Flash guys was at 800. I will never forgive DC for that. My boy, the Flash. I love the Flash. 800
Yeah,
issues. Nah,
I
number
don't
one.
understand why I don't understand what it is. I don't know that. I'm wondering because DC being owned, in the movie realm with Warner Brothers, and they are notoriously known for making horrible decisions. And I don't know if that trickles down, because it's shown that like Jim Lee, as cool as an artist as he is not a good
Leader.
president of a
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He's just not.
I said this on some of these videos too. What does Jim Lee do? Like, what does he do?
I
He got
He
DC
draws a
away from
panel every
Diamond.
few
Yeah, he's coming
months.
back for Hush 2, which is Batman issue 158, and he got DC away from Diamond as a distributor.
Yeah, and the fact that like when I was really like I wanted the Zdarsky run to work, you know what I mean?
I did.
And man, when they brought back Batman Zur-En-Arrh, and I was just like, oh god damn it. Like, no, please.
Gosh.
And like Batman was in space and he was like not being frozen and dying and he was doing all this stuff. I'm like, what is
I haven't
happening?
went through his run yet. I'm still gonna get it in trade. There's some panels that I've seen people talk about where apparently like they're writing runs now where they want Bruce to hate that he's rich. Like, what the fuck is that? That's so cringe.
Like, yeah. So they took everything away from him. It was so depressing for so long, right? They took like all his money away. And there was actually a scene where like all that Gotham War, was it like Catwoman versus Batman, right? Like all the people were against him, and like he was like kicking the shit out of all his proteges, telling him how wrong they were. But like it was like, dude, you were completely wrong. Like there's one standard besides Superman, right? There's one standard in DC Comics. If Dick Grayson tells you like you're fucking up, dude, then you're probably fucking up.
Yep.
And no, Batman was like, no, fuck you, I'm gonna kick your ass. Like, it's like, dude, what am I reading? Yeah, and it took me off. Yeah. I stopped reading. It's the first time in man, I have not read.
You have a breaking
Batman.
point with man. Good lord, yeah.
I have not read Batman, like the regular Batman series, in a long time.
DC Comics gains ground as Marvel's market share dipped last quarter. DC Comics is officially gaining ground while its market share rising as Marvel's share dips once again. What's even more compelling is that this isn't just a general shift in the comic market. It's a direct transfer of power. I wouldn't say so. It's more like a direct bullshit way of DC going like, hey, our mainline stuff really wasn't hitting. Let's just make a whole new universe. It's literally what they did.
Well, I also think, though, that holding out the Justice League, because I thought, just like in if you watch my Dark Crisis videos, and I hate to keep bringing this up,
shameless
but like
plugging, I love it.
Yes. And right here in Pennsylvania, no, when they held the Justice League out and they didn't just bring him back like 2 weeks later, and they did the Titans run, which was not good. It was not good, in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
They try to replace fucking Justice League with Titans. That's such an L.
And they even brought it up. They were like, even in the book we just read.
Yeah, we did.
Like when they had that conversation with Hal and Barry's, like, and the Titans are keep kicking it down, keeping it real.
Well, the league's out of commission.
Like, well, the league's out of commission. And so when they brought the Justice League back, and they brought them back with the Trinity, but they also brought in all of those heroes you saw from the show. When they did it from the actual Justice League Unlimited show, and they have this story where it's like Booster Gold was like the main guy in the first issue. It was like telling the Justice League story through his eyes. So it's reminiscent of the show. I think that brings in a lot of the fans that are, say, in like your age to like 30s to 40s, like that watched that, and they can grasp towards it. Now, if they just brought it back and it was like some of the teams that we had from the 90s, which were just like before Grant Morrison came back, it was like, what is this? What is this? Why do the Justice League suck? Why are they garbage? And I think doing that would also sell books, because people would read that. They'll want to see that because that's something that's nostalgic to them. And I think that was a big thing for them having that book come out at the right time
Mhm.
and doing a lot of things like fell into place. A lot of small
Yeah,
dominoes
Absolute
fell into
Batman
place.
got a lot of good word of mouth. Absolute Wonder
Yeah.
Woman had a lot of good word of mouth.
And a bunch of Marvel books not being as good at the time. Like I like Ultimate Spider-Man. I think that's
Me
really
too.
cool.
Yeah.
I love Jonathan Hickman, but when you saw all those teams, all those guys that were writing for Marvel are now writing for DC, you're like,
Well, it's mostly like outside of
ugh.
Ultimate Spider-Man. I mean, Ultimate Black Panther issue number 1 had a huge boost in sales, but that ended up falling off after a little bit of time. Most of their Ultimate line has not been, I would say, as talked about outside of Spider-Man. Like most
Well,
of it
that's
is
what I'm
just,
saying. Like, so
yeah,
it was a perfect time for DC for those dominoes to fall
yeah,
in
you're
that
right. Yeah,
order
yep.
because a lot of the big books that we're bringing back the Ultimate Universe. You guys remember the Ultimates, and you remember this and this and
Yeah.
this and it just Ultimate Spider-Man did well, and the Ultimate Invasion did well, but it was also written by Hickman.
Yeah.
So
And
like,
then recently now they have to put out Ultimate Wolverine. I wonder what other prominent Ultimate characters they have to lay out there
yeah,
to get some
that's what
stretch
I mean.
sales.
And you know, there's certain teams that were legacy teams that were Marvel, and now they're writing for DC. And it's like,
Mhm.
does that mean anything? I don't know. The Comicscape has changed so much
Yeah.
from
Mhm.
whenever I was a kid and to now. It's so crazy because one, there's so much stuff. It's oversaturated, number
Way
one.
oversaturated. Yeah.
And like, it started with the New 52. We're gonna have 52 books. Like, fuck, dude. No. Just can you do like 12
Yeah.
really good ones, even if Green Lantern and Green Arrow and they got to team up together, or you know, the Flash has his book and then these people come in. Can you write really solid books? You know, like that's the major key is and
Yeah.
people not knowing how to get into it.
Yeah. It's
That's
a
a
direct
massive problem.
It's a direct transfer of power with DC capitalizing on Marvel's losses. This development is particularly noteworthy, signaling a dramatic shift in the industry's dynamics that could reshape the competitive landscape. Marvel Comics took a significant hit in Q4 2024, with its market share dropping from 39.9% in Q3 to 33%. Meanwhile, DC Comics saw a nearly equivalent rise in market share and is now sitting at 26.9%, suggesting that Marvel's loss became DC's gain. So people look at the market shares here. Oh, this is all true. Maybe they just made this shit up. But be honest here, how the fuck is Image now outperforming these two with Jeff Johns' Ghost Machine currently? I don't know.
I don't know.
God.
That's the other thing, man. Like it's like, do we really know what, you know, that comes into the problem of distribution. It comes into a massive problem of distribution. If you're a company, right, that has literally a movie studio company behind it, how come you can't distribute your own shit?
Yeah. And keep in mind, numbers for comic book shops are always disingenuous because when people found out how things really worked, it's like, no, those weren't like sales. Those are unit sales. That's from the retailer ordering shit. So I could still imagine that DC and Marvel are on top of Image being this low. That's scary. Because if this is, let's say hypothetically this is true, Boom Studios might not be long for the world because they just rebooted Power Rangers. Their long running Power Rangers series they had since 2017 rebooted.
I thought the original one was great. I liked it.
What does Dark Horse have now that anyone?
I don't even.
Besides the reprints of manga that they have, like Berserk, the Berserk Omnis they have.
Do I know what Dark Horse had whenever I was a kid? They had Prince Valiant. That's what they had. So like,
IDW has Sonic, TMNT.
Yeah, I know they have Sonic because my younger son, every night before he goes to bed, we read a chapter of. I bought a
based on you got. I have those comics too.
Yeah, I bought a bunch of them.
So like IDW has Sonic, Star Trek, TMNT. They had Transformers, but they lost it to Image. Even with Image Comics right now, with the G.I. Joe Transformers initiative, that's not enough to bump them up. Interestingly, the combined market share of the two comic book giants remains steady at around 60%, further emphasizing a direct shift between the two publishing juggernauts, with Marvel's loss becoming DC's gain. This marks the second consecutive quarter where the gap between Marvel and DC has narrowed, signaling a potential shift in the industry's dynamics. Lies. To put
that doesn't seem right.
No way. To put the market share into perspective, back in January 2024, Marvel held a dominant 36% market share, while DC sat at 23%. That gave Marvel a 13-point lead. Fast forward to January 2025, and that 13-point lead has shrunk just 6 points. A significant shift in DC's favor. This marks the second consecutive quarter where the gap between Marvel and DC has narrowed, indicating a clear shift in the industry. But what's driving this change? The answer lies in DC's newest strategy. One likely cause for DC's gain in the market share is the launch for their All-In initiative, which introduced the Absolute Universe. The last quarter's report on market share coincided closely with the unveiling of the initiative, making it likely that this launch is a key factor behind the change in market share. That's the only thing they have right now.
But that's disingenuous, though, because if the books were shit, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah. So what they're saying essentially is that it's just a gimmick. All they can do to rise and be like there essentially to keep the sales going is just gimmick. That's all it is,
right?
Essentially.
But it is. But the books themselves are good, though, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think they're good. Mm-hmm. Because if they were shit, you could introduce a new universe that's like, this will directly affect everything in the main line, and if it's garbage, nobody cares.
Yep.
But they happen to be good, and when the teams were announced, I think that because that made it kind of big. You bring you had Scott Snyder back to Batman,
and Nick Dragotta on Absolute Batman, Jason Aaron, decently okay name on Superman, Kelly Thompson. Of course, they were gonna put a girl on Wonder Woman. If we're gonna be
but they also picked the right one though. In my opinion, I
should have had Tom King, man. I heard he's doing great on his Wonder Woman run currently. Furthermore, the January quarter report now reflects the Absolute Universe after it has gained significant momentum, with multiple issues of Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Superman now released. In short, it's the All-In initiative and the Absolute Universe that came with it. It seems to be driving DC's rise in market share. Also, I have this one. They have the Amalgam Omnibus out now too. I have to eventually get that, but DC did collaborate with Marvel for a DC versus Marvel omnibus. That was these were supposed to come out way earlier in the year, and they got massively delayed.
And I think if they would just stop being so ridiculous, because in the 90s it was great, like that. You got those collaborations. Those
need more crossovers. Yeah, because right now currently so DC's doing it. DC is doing a big one with Sonic coming up in March. We heard about that one. That one I'm really, 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 really excited about.
And they did the Batman Ninja Turtles a while ago.
Oh, yeah.
That
Marvel
was fun.
Doing another event with Godzilla. So they are doing a little bit more crossovers than they used to.
But it needs to be the major two. It needs to be the major two again. Because I remember they had fans could vote Wolverine was going to fight Lobo, or this was going to fight, and you could vote in the back of your comic and clip it out and send it in. And they just don't do stuff like that anymore. It's nowhere near as interactive because everything is done digitally. And it's like, with the digital age and everything is right here, right now, now, there's no anticipation for anything.
With the market share gap narrowing for the second consecutive quarter between DC and Marvel, and with such a dramatic shift in how many points Marvel is leading by, there will undoubtedly be high anticipation for the next quarter's report. This will help solidify whether DC is on track to potentially overtake Marvel in the comic sector. Okay. I mean, even if they do, it's only for a short period. If these books at any point fall off, guys, there's a reason why it's called All-In. There's a specific reason for that. They're all in. Yeah, this is all they got left. What else they got after this?
Well, here's where the next part that you're going to read, this is where it could mess up.
Additionally, DC is set to release more Absolute titles. These I have heard about, including Absolute Flash. That cover art looks so good. The cover art on that one looks like absolute trash.
But when has Martian Manhunter books ever did anything?
It's crazy. He's so popular from the Justice League animated cartoons, but it's just from the cartoons. People don't know, Martian Manhunter's comics don't sell well at all. He actually has not had a consistent run almost ever. Last thing he's had was 2012, from what I remember.
It's just he just doesn't. He's another one that's great on a team, but
by himself, Absolute Green Lantern. Oh Lord. These releases could further help DC gain ground in the market share, potentially causing Marvel to slip even further.
I could listen. I could see
Ooh.
absolute
I can see
Flash and
Flash doing
absolute Green
great.
Lantern
Yeah.
doing, because there's so many different Dark Sector. There's so many different
Mhm.
Green Lantern iterations. So they wouldn't be making any of those if they didn't at least
Yeah.
think they could sell.
I got no hope for Absolute Manager. Sorry, I'm sorry.
No,
Anyone out there-
it would be awesome if it was the best one. That would be the
Oh, God.
most hilarious.
It's just the design. Have people seen the design on it? It looks
It's
like
not.
shit.
Yeah,
It looks
it's
so.
Yeah, it's
No,
not. It's not.
you can't convince me to buy that. That is like I maybe might buy this in a trade if I see it on Amazon on sale. I'm not kidding. I would never buy that.
I'll be
willingly.
curious. I'll
Curious
be
to buy it in a
curious.
trade. Like if you bought it on sale at $5 from a Walmart bin, that's where I would probably accept it from. You don't get that in floppy format.
No, I'm definitely not getting it in floppy format.
Because you know what's crazy? They didn't mention this in the article. Flash is going to be an ongoing series. Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter, from what I remember, are going to be miniseries, 6-part.
Are they going to be like 5 or 6? Okay,
probably 6-part. 5.
That's a normal arc, like a 6.
Yeah, because they want to gauge the sales. Because if you guys don't follow Scott Snyder on Twitter, he always talks about, hey, if you guys are buying the book, we make more of the book. So if there's no
right,
so they'll know at 6 issues if there's interest there.
If there's demand for the supply, they'll know. 6 is good because that's the round number of any comic, arc. They'll know. Right. The only time that they'll go even further if there's something like a superior idea that takes a little while to progress. But even then, if the sales aren't there and nobody gives a shit, that's the biggest thing. People, you have to care about it. If nobody cares about it, then it's the same thing with television. Everybody talks about like we consume television differently, and this is that. It's like, well, tell the NFL that, because the NFL has something people want to watch, so people fucking watch it live. It's the same. If you have something that people want to see or read or do, they will go out of their way to do all of those things.
Yeah, and the shop sales reflect that. If the shops are constantly ordering more, and we know this is true based off the reprints, the Absolute books, those noir editions that you guys ended up getting, if the sales are there, you're gonna get more books. And that's the other thing I'm glad at least maybe there's somewhat taking notice of. If you have to kind of gauge if there's people buying it to make it a worthwhile reason to keep chugging the story forward, because too many times they both do this. We're like, this shit's way over. They'll get to any character will have this. We're like, it'll get to like issue 16, 17, and you're like, I'm just here. I don't even know why I'm here anymore. How about we just take it slow? That's the Absolute Universe needs to do. Just keep it kind of small right now. Expanding to all these other characters outside of this is a little too much.
It's a risk.
It's a risk. Yeah.
It's a risk, especially if it comes out before those original arcs on those 3 are done. Because then it gets diluted and not special. And if they start showing like Flash or the Martian Manhunters, let's be honest, that's the gamble. That's the gamble out of all of those, because the other characters are established and they've sold and things like that. But if they put those books out and like Wonder Woman's only on issue 5 and hasn't completed its arc,
because
you're going to take away sales from that. If someone's like, well, I could get that later, or I'll wait for the trade, or I'll wait for this, or what, because
it's crazy. That is also why DC could be, I guess you could say, gaining market share. They didn't mention it, which I think is very disingenuous. DC recently came out with their new, you could say, their epic collections, their DC Finest line, which is hopefully we'll know from the known numbers after this month concludes how well they're selling, actually, because we'll know from ICV2. And they've also been doing the DC Compact Comics, their manga-sized books as well. That's probably a major reason why their sales bumped up. They're literally essentially reprinting older stories in new collected editions and manga-sized format, which is a great. I like those ideas. Those are great. Those are amazing ideas. Those are awesome ideas.
If they still count towards original floppies, or then I don't know how the numbers are gauged.
Yeah, because that's
do they take trades into effect? I don't know.
Yeah. So, what is your closing thoughts and opinions on comic book sales? Do you think this lasts for DC, or do you think this is going to end at some point?
It's gonna have to end at some point,
Mhm.
but the main issue is they have to get their main three back on track. They have to. Like if they when the Trinity is not doing well in some form, some shape or form, then the whole line suffers. So they're gonna have to get like I said, Zdarsky's Batman. I mean, great writer. He did Daredevil. It was cool, but like it is not, to me, it is not working on the legacy Batman. And that's like, should be, yes, focus on Absolute because it's selling and it's doing that, but you know, there is that other universe that it needs to interact with, that has to do something with each other. And if
Yeah.
this book
Yep.
sucks a bunch of dicks, then nobody cares. That's the biggest thing. Nobody cares.
How many dicks did it suck though? That's the thing.
Well, a full satchel of Richards. I don't know what comes in, but I'm sure it's a lot.
Oh God, good Lord. But yes, DC, you are doing great work. I would say right now, currently with the Absolute Universe. I'll give you credit for that. That luckily turned over. Imagine if that was a disaster. That would be just okay. Burn the company down. Just burn it down. Actually, let's just quit it all. Let's just burn it down. Absolute Universe luckily turned out pretty good for a lot of people. I love the idea of the DC's Finest line. I would just kind of prefer if we could start at the very beginning of a lot of the characters' run and just kind of work way up, like the way Marvel did with their Epic collections. Like start it from the way Superman was, the way Superman, the first superhero, the DC Finest book I have over there. It starts from Action Comics number 1 and goes to number 20. Yeah, just build it up in order. Because what's the biggest problem with comic book fans? They say I can't follow stuff in order. It's all out of whack. Whatever, it's okay. Great idea, but just that I had a problem with. And you have the Compact Comics, which are a good idea too. So I give DC credit for those.
And if you're going to start new fans, like it might be a little bit hard for them to start at like the old Action Comics or
those are
the
jarring.
They are. Yeah. Like I do that Batman series on my channel that literally starts from Detective Comics 27, and it's freaking hilarious in my opinion. Start from the Bronze Age. Yeah. Start from the Aparo Jim Starlin era. Start from there because that's easily relatable, and you could see where the character was to where it is now. You could see that growth, you know, and not have to make it so hard. Cause like everybody sees on Reddit, hey, I'm trying to get into Batman. What should I read?
Start?
Oh, you start with Dark Victory, and then you should start with this, and this. And they're like, all right, fuck it. I don't want to read Batman. Bye. Like, you know what I mean?
It's also the money aspect as well, because you know people like me and you will buy comics from ours, that's what we do, but a lot of people don't know if they want to invest that much into something initially up front. That's why I always just recommend one book that I think is going to get someone in, and that's it. It's not that big of an investment if you're going to be spending like $20. I think everyone's got if you don't have $20, you should be buying comic books then, because you're all broke.
You don't have poor that motherfucker. Then you shouldn't have even been asking the question.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully Deep Sea. Oh my God. I can't talk tonight. Sorry, guys. Hey. Hopefully, DC keeps up this bump in sales. I hope they reprint more good Finest collections that I'll still be buying them, actually. I just don't like one little aspect about them, but it's okay. The idea is great. And then the Compact Comics idea, whoever made that idea, good job. I'll give you a fist bump. There you go. So thank you guys for checking out this video. If you guys are returning viewers or new viewers, then please consider subscribing to the channel if you have not already. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it and comment down below. Also, make sure you guys hit the notification bell. That way you guys can get notified on whenever I upload a brand new video. And I'm MSK, aka Master Swag King. We're signing out, guys. See you guys later. Peace.